Evening class. Hope you all can hear me okay. Um, you'll be able to pause this video. Plus, after free versions, I'll only get 15 minutes. Which means once I start going, I'm just gonna go. And if you need to stop because you want to take notes or something like that, you can. Um, I hope you all are actually paying attention to all of this that I'm about to say. Um, there are some things under this video uh, on the haiku page that are for you to do as well. I will say this in advance. This is completely optional. I'm not going to grade any of it. If you actually want me to see your essay, I will be more than happy to go over it and tell you some things that you need to do as far as your DBQ essay that you'll be working on today. But some people in class are probably going to spend this time doing some homework or something that's very, very irrelevant. Seeing how these DBQs are going to be in test grades when the second 9 weeks comes around. But without further ado, let's start. So things that y'all need to keep in mind when essay writing in general, and this is for LEQs and DBQs, but we're going to kind of specifically focus on LEQs first. Um, Make sure your thesis is not too vague. We talked about this in class yesterday. Um, I'll give you some examples soon as far as DBQ examples to help with that. But again, your DBQ should not be too vague. That basically means like you shouldn't be saying there were similarities and differences. There were two effects. We have to be a little bit more specific than that. Um, Make sure you answer the prompt. You must know the difference between political, social, cultural, economical, etc. The themes we talked about, like that's the reason we do spice charts. You have to know the difference between the themes. So that's why you have to read a prompt and be able to understand what the question is asking you. Keep in mind, y'all been doing these essays with notes and textbooks at your fingertips. In a few weeks, you're going to end up having to do this without any of that at your fingertips. And very, very, very soon on the test, you're going to have to write a thesis with nothing at your fingertips. So keep that in mind. Understand the format. So that's the least of your worries. Understand what the question is asking. That's the least of your worries. That way you can be focusing on evidence. As far as contextualization, go broad. Starting right before is usually good. So, for example, we had something that started at 600 recently, and some of y'all went all the way back to the Neolithic Revolution. That doesn't make sense. That was okay when we were talking about long distance trade, but you can't start at the Neolithic Revolution every time. Um, After starting right before, you also want to answer what's going on around the world around this time. So during this period or during this era that the prompt is asking, what is happening around the world in a world context? Once you're done with that, be sure to connect it back to the thesis. You have to bring it back down to your thesis. Some of you are getting better and better at that. Some of you have a lot more work to do. Here's a simple way to get more evidence points, people. Use dates. Not even half of you, but not many of you are using dates to get evidence points. Some of you are doing a better job of being specific. Some of you didn't say Japan, you said feudal Japan or Taika Japan. You're not just saying China, you're saying Han China. You're not saying India, you're saying Gupta India. You get the point. That's great. And you're using some evidence as far as vocabulary. You're using some names. Some of you are starting to use names, which is good. But use dates too. That can get you some points as well. All right. Uh, it's an important one for a lot of you. Within your body paragraphs in your LEQ, if you're going to use another example, just in case your previous example is wrong, or just in case you just want some extra points, follow the format before you include the other example. What I mean by that is some of you will have your claim, and then you'll say, for example, da 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 da. Another example is da 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 da. Don't just ramble off examples, okay? Have your claim, say, for example, and talk about one thing. The reason for that one thing is, and then talk about your another example and the other, and try to think of another reason. All right. So now we're going to move on to the DBQs and exactly what a DBQ should look like. I hope this helps a little bit. Keep in mind, we've already had some practice with POV. Believe it or not, you've already had practice with POV. You've already had practice with like summarizing documents and connecting it back to your thesis. That process is called sapping. Y'all don't even realize you did that, but we're going to have some more practice with it today. That is what you do with each document. And I'm going to be honest, that's basically your body paragraph. You do that within each document, which you've grouped, which we've learned that as well, within your groupings in your body paragraph. And then that's going to be your essay. And you'll see that in a few. So, first, you'll have your thesis after contextualization, of course. And in your DBQ, the thesis can be at the end, like in the same paragraph for contextualization. That's definitely okay. I would actually advise that. Um, Again, you see it must answer the prompt directly. Um, Thesis examples. So the prompt, analyze attitudes of South Asians towards X, right? Um, Thesis, South Asians had many attitudes towards X. Is that a good thesis? Yes? No. As you all know, and I'm going to keep harping on this, all right? Let's look at a better thesis. South Asians' attitudes towards X were da 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 da, right? Tell what they were from the documents. Be specific. Same thing in the LEQ. Tell what they were. Prompt. Identify the issues China faced when they blank. Thesis. China faced many issues when they blank. Good thesis? Wrong. Terrible thesis. Let's get a good one. The issues China faced when they blank were da 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 da. Now you're telling what they were from the documents. These are good theses for LEQs and DBQs. Be specific. Don't give your examples. You should never say your examples in a contextualization, in a thesis, or anything like that. That's for your body paragraphs. Analyze the causes and effects of X. There were many causes and effects of X. Good thesis? No. Terrible thesis. Again, way too vague. Can you take a guess of what would be correct? The causes of X were da 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 da. Some of X's effects were da 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 da. Now tell what you're telling what the causes and effects were from the documents. All right. Body paragraphs go like this. Open each body paragraph of the body with a topic sentence. The sentence is the same thing. All right. Um, you should basically be giving your claim, which is going to be talking about how you group these things, right? So if you group something based off positive responses, then the positive responses to this would be from da 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 da, or there were positive responses from these type of people within this civilization, right? What is your claim? What is your groupings? The similarities of this are X, Y, and Z, right? What are your claims? How have you grouped these? Just like your and we don't have to go over this, just like your LEQ. So I'm gonna skip to what I think is really important, just basically the end. Okay, so your thesis answers the prompt. Then you have a topic sentence. It says names, documents. You don't really have to do that, but you do need to label like your grouping, like what is your claim based off your grouping. It says work with the documents individually. All right. So this is all this means. After you give your topic sentence, you're going to start talking about whatever documents are in that group. Within that group, and you've practiced with grouping already, so you should know what I mean by that. You're going to go over that one document first, one document at a time. Within that document, you have to summarize it. So what does document mean? Then you have to analyze it. That means how does it relate to your thesis, right? You can literally say, um, this is an example of this because da, da, da. So this is an example of a positive response because of da 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 da. Okay. Then you save POV. You can POV right there, but it's better to save all your POVs for the end of that paragraph. But you can if you want to. So right after that, you move to your next document. All right. You do that to all the documents you have in that particular group, and then you go to your next and then you POV, then you go to your next paragraph, and you're good. So as long as you remember within the body paragraphs, you have to just sap, summarize, analyze, and use POV, then you're good. If you get confused with POV, as far as what should I do with POV, what should I be looking for, try to use HIP, HIPP, HIP. We'll have some more POV practice in a few weeks, or in a week actually, probably. Um, but again, you should be trying to practice this on your own. And again, you repeat that process for the next paragraph. And that's it, people, for DBQs. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday. The process for Friday is going to be this. You'll have I already gave you your study guides. Hopefully, you remember they are on the behind the podium, kind of on one of the shelves within the podium. But you'll have a kind of like this, a PowerPoint where I'll be talking about giving a quick lecture on chapters 15 and 16. And then I'm going to be sharing with you, um, it's like a group of lectures, but the only one you need to click on is the period 3 in Islam review. That kind of goes over period 3 in a nutshell. It's from last year, so you'll see someone like Ewan who will be on there. Other people didn't choose to show their faces, and Ewan's actually going to leave his face off in a little bit. I know I'm sounding really confusing right now, but you'll understand tomorrow. But that is from last year, and it's a pretty good review. So I would definitely listen to that before your test. And this is asynchronous, which means you're doing this stuff in your own time. If you rather do work in school and you're going to listen to this stuff at night, that is completely on you. But I would definitely take advantage of doing this in school. So the only review you're going to get from me, all right, because there's no vocab cards for period 3 like we did for periods 1 and 2. They've combined period 3 and 4 together. So we will do those for period 4 if you all want to. And we will save that, do some of those for the end as well. But period 4 can be kind of lengthy. It can be kind of difficult. Period 5 and period 6, people really start getting. So um, look forward to essay writing soon. You'll start seeing, I'm telling you now, you'll start seeing some random days where you'll come in and you'll have an LEQ. So please be prepared. Please start studying and please start knowing your content. All right. Again, have a good day. And tomorrow is just those 2 videos that you're watching if you're finished today. The rest of the day is yours, what you need to do.